Hi everyone, Goodney by Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of two new albums from Brockhampton, The Family and TM. These are what are said to be the final two records from the greatest boy band of all time, Brockhampton. A collective of rappers, writers, singers, and producers with mostly roots in Texas, but eventually they kind of convened in California after they made a lot of waves on the internet, kind of broke into the industry, dropping some stellar albums in the process, especially when you're talking about the group's three-part Saturation trilogy. These records saw the group riding high, but it would eventually be their popularity that would lead to their gradual undoing, along with the allegations that would lead to kicking Amir Van out of the group, the band and fan tensions to follow, expectations not really being met on the group's following record Iridescence, also many fans being let down by the subtler and moodier approach of the album Ginger, and their recent Roadrunner project, while great in my opinion, hasn't seemed to have given us the lasting power or longevity of those original Saturation records. While plans for the band's demise has been in the cards for years, it's been kind of disappointing to see that their run has not been as consistent, as fruitful, or as successful and positive as it could have been. Sort of seemed like from the moment they blew up, everything that could have gone wrong did. And it's a tribute to the group's collective talent and passion that we ended up getting any good records or songs in the midst of the chaos. Now, the ultimate kicker in this trail of broken dreams would be for the band to service with two records at this point that are not just weak, but are their worst. And with The Family and TM, that is pretty much what happens. Yes, the group dropped not one, but two records this past weekend. One of them being The Family, which we got a couple of interesting teasers from. Then there's the second, which is TM. The differences between the two, starting with The Family, this one is pretty much held down by Kevin vocally. Ironic considering the title. Yes, for Kevin Abstract, this record is pretty much a one-man show. Then TM is actually the group album featuring all of the various members that I'm sure fans have been dying to hear from. But honestly, after running through both of these LPs, I wouldn't be surprised if most fans give these records just one single spin, or maybe even a partial spin, and just don't ever return. Because starting with The Family, while this record does feature some decent production here and there, and some good performances from Kevin, as well as a lot of food for thought, reflecting on the personal turmoil he's going through with the demise of the band, things that led up to that point. Also, his struggle to process these changes. Yeah, all of that is fine, but it's not enough, because consistently the songs on this record are underwritten, underproduced, and unfinished. Very, very, very bare bones. At best, these tracks sound like potential pieces of Brockhampton or solo Kevin Abstract songs that hopefully would have been developed more past the point that they are. However, as is the material on this thing, sounds like it's just kind of been slapped together to meet some kind of bare minimum label requirement. There are actually multiple bars on this LP where Kevin references exactly that, and while he doesn't, say on this album that it's that 100% guiding the creative process of this album, in practice, it certainly feels that way. There's no other excuse for so many songs in the first leg on this LP not going far enough. Quickly wanted to throw in a comment on the song All That, which is titled that because it features an interpolation of the theme song of the show on Nickelodeon of the same name, and yeah, it's an absolutely awful interpolation. There's no other excuse for the singing on Gold Teeth to be so horrendous and out of tune, sounding like a tone-deaf outcast. There's no other excuse for pretty much every song at the midpoint of this LP to be so thrown together and unlistenable. Back from the Road, Basement, Southside, and Good Time are all pretty much non-starters. The last leg of the record, I suppose, is better, but not by much. There are some passionate bars and performances from Kevin on 37th, as well as the closer that I like a lot, where, again, he reflects on his current mind state with the band breaking up, showing love to various members of the group, going into details where he feels like he personally messed up or fell short. And while I get that Kevin is a key voice of Brockhampton, maybe the key voice of the group, it feels almost weird for him to focus on this topic as extensively as he does entirely by himself on this record, because for sure, there has to be a variety of opinions within the group itself in terms of like what this breakup means, how it came to this point, maybe even how it could have been avoided. Like, obviously as a fan of the group, I am curious to listen to this thing because it does provide some insight, but ultimately I left this thing with more more questions than answers. In the last leg of this thing, the disappointing cuts continue with the ending, which I think starts off really strong but leaves a lot to be desired and certainly could have been fleshed out and structured more. My American Life, which is a very kind of pitched and angsty acoustic cut that I think is way too lo-fi and thrown together to be all that entertaining. Feels like a cut that pales in comparison to some of the more singer-songwriter influenced songs on Kevin Abstract solo material. There's Any Way You Want Me, which sounds like a very vintage piece of vocal pop with some twangy guitar playing in the background, a lot of atmosphere in the mix. The singing is pretty weak, and the meta line that Kevin drops about, oh, this being such a toxic bar seems a little cringe, frankly. And with the title track, The Family, I guess Kevin is kind of playing into a negative attitude or character on this one a bit. I respect the focus, I respect the concept, but I just don't really see what is to be gained by just coming onto a track like this and just openly being a dick, like for a few minutes. Regardless of group willingness to participate in this or any project, it just kind of seems like a bad look. Yeah, The Family, unfortunately, despite a couple of high points that it does legitimately have, is kind of sad in a very unflattering way. And it's not just because this record is falling short of my expectations. This record didn't need to be amazing. I did not expect it to be. But like at the very least, I hoped that this record would not contribute to the ongoing series of occurrences that have been kind of sullying the band's legacy. But no, this record just kind of adds more fuel to that fire, unfortunately. Again, as a fan of the group, Kevin does drop a lot of info on this LP in regards to Brockhampton's demise that I kind of want to hear. But the fact remains, even the best moments on this project are fleeting, because the overall picture here is sloppy, it's mismanaged, it's kind of a half-hearted goodbye. And I'm feeling a strong 4 on it, honestly. So then there's TM, which was the group album that I think many fans were hoping for. But this project honestly isn't any better than The Family, not by any stretch. The opener starts off pretty promising, a very dark and gritty piece of trap music, with some Juicy J-esque flows on the front end. Really feels like some old school 3-6 Mafia. Verses are decent, production is decent, but the songwriting and choruses could be a lot better. Then the following, Animal, is one of many very smooth and melodic, somewhat R&B inspired cuts on this thing that feel very impersonal. The vocals have no bite or personality to them. If you told me that this wasn't Brockhampton and you just sort of gave me these tracks out of the blue, I would believe you. It doesn't sound like Brockhampton by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly the genres being played with here are in their wheelhouse, but everything just feels so colorless and lifeless that I would assume they wouldn't sort of ever put anything out that is so underseasoned. Listerine hits in a similar way, but with a much, much, much worse chorus. With New Shoes, we have a legit rap banger where all the boys kind of come together. Seems like there's a moderate amount of energy on this one, but for whatever reason, the mix and vocals, the perks, don't really have much bite or clarity to them. Just kind of seems like very gray, very low grade on the production front. A track that runs like a semi-rough demo isn't exactly what I was hoping to hear on the group's send-off record. As far as songwriting, performances, mix, and production, Keep It Southern is handily the best track on this LP thus far. Really could have used another verse, but at least Merlin and the beat on this one are coming off bold. But from this track forward, we are just losing the plot entirely. Man on the Moon, is this some kind of happy-go-lucky Justin Timberlake-inspired pop track with a lot of gummy, synthy production? I don't know what the group is shooting for on this one, but it's gross as hell. Better Things sounds like a dream sequence that I had no need to live through. Crucify Me has all of these cartoonishly falsetto vocals on it, on top of these very jazzy, loungy pianos that seem to just kind of go on forever. I guess that it does reach a climax point of some sort, but the whole song just seems like a badly conceived idea that was pushed way further than it needed to be. Duct Tape is another faceless, bland, auto-tune heavy cut where the vocals are just so nondescript that I can hardly tell who is singing them. Always Something, yet another very low-key, melodic cut with not a lot of energy to it. And Goodbye is easily one of the worst Brockhampton songs the group has ever come up with. If I can even use that term, because I feel like saying they've come up with it insinuates like a little bit more effort than what has clearly gone into this track. Like they're so obviously phoning it the fuck in just to, you know, desperately cross over the finish line and completely finish out this label deal. Yeah, these two records were very much a massive disappointment, and I feel like that is the most polite way that I can put it. And I'm feeling a strong 3 on this one. That's it. Those are my thoughts on these two Brockhampton albums. I don't think I have anything else to say. That is essentially, from what I understand, the end of the group. So, very unfortunate end, but I suppose we still have the good records that we do. The good ones are good. These ones, not as much. And, you know, I guess they will just kind of get washed out at some point eventually with the sands of time. And hopefully with that, the moments in their catalog that were great and were high points and did stand out, you know, managed to hang on. I guess we'll see. But yeah, not a very flattering ending for this group to me, at least creatively speaking. Transition, have you given these albums a listen? Did you love them? Did you hate them? What would you rate them? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the links to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Brockhampton, forever.